Hello, hello, hello. We are live. We are live on our second session on navigating single parenting. Right. So, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are watching. I am so happy. In fact, as me and Nelly, we're so grateful to have you today on our second episode. Now, before I start, you can already hear from my voice that I'm cracking. My voice is not clear, and it's because of cold. I've been dealt. The cold really dealt with me, so it took my voice away. So I'm literally trying to gain my voice back. So permit me if I'm sounding a little bit not Peggy, but we're gonna manage. Uh, so, um, right, for anybody who doesn't know me, I'm Peggy Barre, and I am the founder of Arise and Thrive Academy, and also a survivor empowerment coach. I will be having this show with Nelly, and I will pass you over to Nelly because we are going to be discussing something interesting today. So, Nelly, let me pass you over to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Peggy. Hello, everyone. I am called Nelly Kwasini. I am a social worker, a transformational life coach, and the founder for Hand in Hand Community CIC. So, we are pleased to have you on here today to discuss this very important topic.
Yeah, absolutely. Today, we are talking about a very important and emotional topic. And it honestly, there wouldn't have been any better person than Nelly and I because we've been through it. And so we're going to be discussing, in fact, we're just going to be sharing our raw experience, which I hope is going to benefit you as well, you, the viewers watching. So, the topic that we're talking today, in fact, like I say, it is a topic that it touches many families, right? It touches many families. We all grew up in life. We want relationship. Relationship, as always say, is a beautiful thing. It was a gift that was given from God to mankind. But unfortunately, life happens, things happens, and maybe the relationship it doesn't go as we planned, But then the downside is that when it breaks up, the impact is not just felt on us, it's felt on our parenting and it's felt on our children. So today we're going to be talking about how parenting affects, and I mean how relationship breakup affects parenting. And we know that when a relationship breaks up, okay, the relationship ends, but the parenting continues. Whether we like it or not, that parenting continues. So the question is, how do we navigate this emotional shift without letting it affecting our children? Because this is what we're going to be talking about today. So Nelly, I don't know whether you wanted to say something, and we're going to dive deep today because we want to keep on time, but make sure that we give you value today.
Yeah, I think let's deep dive. Let's start straight away.
Absolutely. So today we're going to be talking about just a little bit of background, right? The reason why we decided to come up with this is because of the impact. Nelly and I will support a lot of families within the community, and I tell you, we see all sorts. And sometimes we just laugh over it because we've been there ourselves. We dealt with it. At one point, we did not even have anybody to support us through that journey. But because we've gone through that journey and we've been able to come on the other side and parenting teenage children, which by the grace of God, thank God they're on track, even though we've gone through breakup. So we thought it would be important or necessary to actually speak to audience because when I see other parents, I can see them, they're struggling. Guys, excuse me, I'm going to be talking and coughing today. So when I speak to parents, I feel sometimes like maybe the resilience and the journey I've been through and what I've learned, some of these parents they haven't learned it, and I can see the way they're struggling. So today we're going to be talking, but before we even start to talk about it, if you are online, if you're online, I just want to ask this question and maybe put it in the chat, right? What do you think is the biggest challenge for kids, right? Or what do you think is the biggest challenge or when a relationship break up, what is the biggest challenge for family? Is it emotional stability? Is it financial support? Or is it co-parenting disagreement? Right. There is no right, wrong, or right answer. So if you could just put it on the chat, at least let's get the pace. Let's start the chat going. Because for me, I felt different impact. And I don't know about Nelly, but we're going to be sharing it today. So the first impact, of course, which is the massive and the biggest impact of relationship breakup, is the emotional. And I know Nelly is an expert in discussing the emotional bit. So she's going to dive more on that. So it is the emotional, okay? Because it is not just emotional for us, the parents. We feel different type of emotions. We feel guilt, we feel anger, and this is where it is very important to identify. We may be having this session. Maybe some of you have already gone through breakup. Maybe some of you watching, you're going through that breakup now. Okay, or maybe some of you, you are still happy in the relationship, and God forbid there is a breakup. But again, whichever way, this is where the emotional bits come first. This is where we feel different sort of emotions. For me, I couldn't even differentiate the different emotions I was going through. And Nelly, we've talked about it, where you feel angry, but you don't even know the difference between anger and frustration. You don't even know the difference between resentment. You feel guilt, because one of the things that we feel when a relationship breakup is, first of all, guilt. We're feeling guilty. Is it my fault? Did I do anything wrong? Even though you know that you've done all your best to keep that relationship going to no avail. They say it takes two to tango. Isn't it, Nelly? Can you just at some point say something there while I drink my water to stop coughing?
Yeah, I mean, relationship breakup, it's okay, especially if you know that your life is at risk. If you know that it's impacting on your parenting, if you know that your children are struggling, because the emotional impact is massive. Like, I mean, there are lots of statistics, but just to come to our community, we see children now being, we describe them as being wayward. When you look into the parenting side, you see that there's trouble. So then that's just a tip to indicate that parenting breakup impacts the children. And the way I see it is not when it's even a research that I read that the impact on parenting is not even when the relationship is breaking up. It is events prior to, because say those periods when parents are arguing, they are giving the silent treatment, they are not speaking nice to each other, and then the children are there, they observe everything. It leaves children with lots and lots of tension because they don't know what's happening. Sometimes you speak to children, they say, I'm scared to go out of the house because they want to be that protective child for the weaker parent, and they stay at home. Even when they go out, they want to come back home because they are focused on the house, that what is going to happen. Are they going to see a parent alive? Are they going to see a parent with a bruise, with a cut, with anything? So gradually, children start developing emotional instabilities because they are always on the alert that something wrong, and they focus on the something wrong because they don't know when a shout or a fight will start with their parents. So that period leading up to breakup plays a very important part and is damaging to children. So if you are someone who is experiencing, or you know someone who is experiencing relationship struggles, and they haven't yet break up yet, help the children, help the family the way you can. But unfortunately, a lot of our African communities, They will shush down the weaker partner. But then, if, like in my case, that period leading up to breakup, I was not envisaging a breakup, but I knew I wasn't happy. But I got to the stage where I could not discipline my children because I was so low and I lost a sense of who I was. When I wanted to discipline my children, as I opened my mouth, I would just cry because there was, it was just so much. That negative energy was there. I was angry. I was frustrated. I was guilty. I was shameful. It was just a cocktail of negative emotions that I was experiencing. On top of that, I was thinking, how are my parents, my family going to respond to that? I came into the UK. I was thinking, I don't have an immediate family who can stand by me like an older family member who I can get that support from. So I was just thinking about so many things. However, I had the courage to go ask for help. But again, just how the community is, I regretted asking for that support. But then I knew because I could see my children struggling emotionally, I was struggling as well. And I said, you know what? When you get to a rock bottom, and I felt that that woman in me reminded me that Nelly, save your children. You have the power, you have the courage, you can do it solo. And when I heard that voice from within, I was like, I will start a new journey. I didn't know where it was taking me to, but I knew I had to take it. And though I got support, I got a counseling support, but they don't give you solutions. They help you. And I knew the actual support that I needed. I needed emotional resilience. And when I spoke with the counselor, I had a number of sessions and I told her, I thank you. I know it's not like I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew all along what I wanted to do. However, the courage was not there. So then, when I had a number of sessions and I was like, okay, I realized that I could only get help, but the final decision was down to me. And I was like, okay, it's time. I need to save myself first in order to save my children. And I decided to leave the relationship. The marriage, it was not like a relationship, it was an 18 years marriage. So I decided to walk away.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of emotional turmoil, but for a very long time, I slept with my children at the refuge and I felt peace sleeping in a refuge. I felt peace sleeping in a refuge because I knew that when I was sleeping, I didn't have to be like looking around or thinking that am I safe? Because I knew that genuinely I was safe where I was safe. I'll leave it there for now.
Absolutely, Nelly, that was so emotional. And when you were speaking, it resonated a lot. It resonated. And I always say it takes courage, it takes guts for someone or a mother either either a parent, one of the parent, to put their kids and their safety first. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. I'm just gonna be coughing. Excuse me, guys.
Okay, have a drink of water. Yes, the emotional part is really important, and I'll just go back. Because when I made the final decision to leave, it's not like that was the only time. There was a time prior that I left, but then I realized that I had not developed the emotional resilience because I was still weary. And like at the time, my reason for leaving was not a punishment, but it was an indication that I was struggling and my children were struggling. And I could see where my children and myself would end up if I didn't take a decision. So that was why I had to take a major decision in my life the second time that I left. And when I left, I did not regret leaving. However, the emotional impact continues because emotional abuse is different from physical abuse. Because the difference is that regardless of where you are, because now with technology, you have connections, whether by phone, by email, whatever, the emotional abuse continues because it could be in the form of text messages, probably talking different, not the factual. Sometimes we think we build a perception about someone, and then we can, like, some parents can use that, the information, to influence the children because they share certain information with the children. Again, that is emotional abuse on the children because why is one parent blackmailing the other parent to their children? Because when a parent does that, they don't give the facts of whatever is going on. They will give a version of their own side that favors, and they want to build a negative image of the other parent. And because they will not narrate the factual story, again, considering that this child or the children are still developing. They've not gone through the experiences that adults have gone through. The children do not understand. And it is very common that children tend to blame themselves that they are the ones who caused the parents to separate. And this has a massive impact on children because sometimes children, especially like a research I read, they say especially teenage children, because they tend to internalize things and they blame themselves. And then when those negative emotions are too much and they struggle to manage with them, what they do is to numb those emotions, they get into drugs, they get into alcohol, they get into promiscuity, they get into all sorts just because they want to use whatever they have to numb the emotional pain that they are going through because it's too much in their heads. And it's something because they don't have that lived experience, they don't know how to navigate, how to understand adult issues. So all of it comes back to the emotional impact that affects children when parents break up.
That is so true, Nelly. Before I went to sort my cough out, I was just saying that it takes courage for one parent to decide to say, you know what, I'm going to walk out. I'm going to walk out, if not for my sake, but for the sake of my children. Because sometimes we may be in that environment and we're thinking that we're doing ourselves a favor or we're doing our children favors. If the environment is not conducive, if the environment is toxic, statistics shows that it damages our children. Two parents in a toxic environment damages pet children more than a single parent in a peaceful environment. And that is one of the things that most parents we fear. For me, Nelly, it was I always say it took me courage. In fact, even when it happened, I struggled. I really struggled. I almost went back. I was dancing between going in or going out. Should I go back? Should I go in? But unfortunately, the social service officer had already gotten involved and statement had already been taken. They had already interviewed the children. And foolish me, I did not even know how it impacted the children, even if I had to go back. The tenant told me, the social service told me straight that, hey, you can go back. That is fine. You can go back and continue your life, but we're going to take these children away from you. So it was like that's when it popped, like, what? It is how serious it is. And he told me that, yes, if you go back, we're going to take these children away from you because you're demonstrating that you lack capacity to protect your children. You lack the capacity to safeguard your children. And I was like, oh my God, how on earth can I carry my children 9 months? I give birth to them, I labor them, I take care of them, and then I get to this age and I lack capacity to take my look. I said, no way. I said, I'm gonna go in on, I'm gonna stand for my children, I'm gonna defend them, even if it means what, I'm going to. But you know what? We are talking in the hindsight and we are all smiling today because the journey wasn't easy. I remember you talked about you slept in the refuge with your children and you felt safe. I slept in refuge with my children. I remember that was the highest time my children ate fish and chips. We ate fish and chips every day, morning, afternoon, evening, fish and chips, you know. But the fact that, and Nelly, we're talking about anger and we're talking about uncertainty, even for the children. I remember me being in the refuge with the children. School was about to resume. I could not even answer. My kids were asking me, Mom, what are we doing with school? The questions in my head, which one would I answer? Every time you get up in the morning, you're thinking, what is going to happen with your children? And you're trying to see whether even you can even make things up, but yet the other party is making you feel useless and even more useless and even more useless. And so you're caught up in the middle. Where where do you want to begin? Where do you want to begin? So for me, it was hard. And talking about, in fact, it is just after when I went through when I sought help, and then of course I went through my training and started doing helping survivors of domestic abuse. That is when you talk about, if you've gone through the freedom program. The freedom program described 9 personality of an abuser, and one of those personalities is the bad father or the bad parent. The bad parent, what do? They try to blackmail you in front of your children, even when you give them the opportunity, or even when they, no matter what you're trying to do to build that family, all they want to do is to put you down in front of the children. So that is one of the things that children will experience. And talking about anger, I remember one day when I came back home, my son, my first son, he was already a teenager. And I don't know what happened. I think something went on in school. He was really angry because when we left, where we left, he was already in his football club. He was doing so well. He aspired to become a footballer. He was shining, and then because of that breakup, we had to relocate him, move into a new environment. That's when he had to start from fresh, and that confidence just went down. And I remember one day when I came to the kitchen, he actually punched the kitchen door, Nelly. He punched the door. And for the first time, I was like, are you okay? I could see rage. I could see anger in his face. I said, what is wrong? He just burst into tears. He started crying. He cried. He cried. He couldn't even explain. He cried and cried and cried. I just left him. He cried until the next day he went to school. He didn't still open up. He came back 2 days after. He sat me down and then we talked. And you talked there about children carrying the guilt, blaming themselves. My son was actually blaming himself for our breakup. He blamed himself. He thought maybe it is his fault that we separated. But then I had to reassure him. I had to explain things to him, just to reassure him. So yes, Nelly, you could see that all the impact on our children, it doesn't just happen when that breakup. There is like a 3 stage: the before, the during, and the after impact that it affects children and also us, unless we find a solution unless we kind of do something to make sure that that cycle doesn't continue. So yeah, it is not what they experienced, what they saw, they carry it, especially the elderly, the eldest children. They carry it because they would have tried to do their own bits, trying to be the mediator. And if it didn't work, now that's when they start to blame themselves, to say that, oh, maybe it's their fault. So yeah, that was so true, Nelly. I don't know whether you want to touch on.
Yeah, I think the emotional part, there's something that, I mean, I like that. For me, I have two patterns. I like to talk about the emotional part and the cultural part. I call myself a traditional woman. I like a lot of culture. So, when it comes to our community, the Afro Caribbean community, when the period when those who are struggling in their relationships really need help, I'm sorry to say it, but majority of Afro-Caribbean communities, they will let you down because they will send you to go back to where that suffering is coming from. And
Mhm.
this, I was speaking with someone recently, this is under the guise of the control that existed many, many centuries back. Things are changing. In my personal opinion, it's not that we need to change the entire culture because there are certain aspects in culture that I love it so much. Some of them
Yeah.
are really, really good. However, there are certain ones, especially when it comes to control, needs to be revised because there's a lot of manipulation.
Mhm.
Because based on the patriarchal system, they use manipulation and control
Yeah.
on women. I am not a feminist. I'm just a free spirited human being. I don't speak only for women, I speak for men as well. For instance, in domestic abuse, I have worked with male victims of domestic abuse where women are very, very controlling, very manipulative. When it comes to that situation, I will talk about it. I face the facts, I face the situation that I have at hand. So, this aspect where when we say we want to go back to our community, we ask for help from our community. My biggest advice is you already know what decision you want to take. Instead of going to seek validation or agreement with whatever you know you need to do, instead seek for courage so you can act. Seek for courage and take that leap of faith because the other side, there's so much uncertainty. Again, going back to my experience, for the very first time, I had to start sorting bills. And I was like, what do I do with these bills? Good thing, I asked for help and they directed me on what I had to do. Because sometimes some people that I speak with, they have been in relationships for 20, 30, whatever years, but they have no idea what it means to pay bills. Even they don't even know who their utility suppliers are, their gas or electricity supplier are. They don't know, but they use those every day. So some of them have said they are so scared to start life all afresh, and they'll prefer to sit with whatever circumstances they are going through. I am not here advocating for anyone to break up their relationships. You are the one, you know the decision you want to take. But as my role as children's social worker, we focus on the children because the children are still growing up. And in the UK, you think the children belong to you. But unfortunately, it might be heartbreaking. The children belong to the state. That is why there are professionals who will be there to safeguard your children if you cannot take the responsibility to protect and make sure your children are safe.
That is so true. I think one thing that we need to really, you just made a statement that rather than focusing on getting help from a community that will instead let you or disappoint you, is rather you try to start building your confidence and building your courage. Because one thing I always say is that we love our children. And trust me, it's not as if the other partner doesn't love that child or children. They do. They love their children as well. But now the only sticking point is that both parents are not working, they are not seeing eye to eye, right? They are not, there's no peace between both parents. So that is where, what do we do? What do we do to make sure that this thing that we're doing doesn't affect the children? Because come on, the children didn't ask for it. It's not their fault. They are just victims. And why should we allow them to suffer the consequences of our choices? Because whatever thing that happens in a breakup, it's just a matter of choices. We make choices. Some of these choices may be wrong ones, some of them may be good ones. But when we make wrong choices, we suffer the consequences. And why should we let these consequences affect our children? So, this is the point where, and like I always say, I'm not saying that some fathers cannot really stick their life on the line for their children. Some fathers do. Some fathers will put their life on the line for their children. But the person that carries morely or carries more the burden of that children is the mother. Because the mother, you know the pain. You know the pain that you went through to conceive those children. Like I said, for me, it got to a point where I said to myself, you know what, it's not even about me anymore. It's not about me anymore. It's about making sure that even if what happens, let me rewrite the story for these children. So that when they look back tomorrow, they'll be proud. They'll say, even though maybe mommy messed up, even though daddy messed up, but at the end of the day, the story has been rewritten. And it takes one courageous person to rewrite that story. So it might be the mom, it might be the dad, but for me, I chose to rewrite the story. And so we are talking today. If I did not stand, or Nelly and I, if we didn't stand our grounds to rewrite that story, who knows what would have happened today with our children. So one thing that I also want to talk about is the fact that when a relationship break up, we're not just talking about the emotions, we're talking about the practical. Nelly talked about the finances. There are many families, many people that live in a relationship. Like I said, I always say, Nelly, for anybody who have read my book, I always say I am happy and I'm so glad that what happened happened. Because if it didn't happen, I wouldn't have become the resilient, confident, independent woman that I am today. Because sometimes when we're in a relationship, we become so complacent. We like say, you know what? If I don't do this thing, the other partner is going to do. Well, if I don't even pay the bill, the other partner is going to pay. Usually, and what Nelly said is right. Some women do not even know who their suppliers are because maybe they are not bothered, or the other partner has controlled everything in such a way that the other partner doesn't even give them a voice or a say in whatever thing happens in the house. And so when the relationship breaks down, if in fact they feel so scared to break away, because where can they start? Where do they start? They can't. So that is why the first impact when you leave, that when that relationship break down, is first the emotion and then the finances, right? Some people have spoken to women who just go in panic. They go in panic. Nelly, I spoke to one lady. It's not as if she didn't have money. She has money in her account because apparently when she broke up, it took a while for her to get to. In fact, she did not even know that she could get a support from the state. And talking about support, talking about benefit, Nelly, that's another issue. That's another thing that we need to talk about, because the narration from our cultural perspective that I've heard, in fact, from some men within our cultural background, they say women are breaking up because they want to take benefit. Women are breaking up because they want, but no, so I've seen women that will break up and then they even go on the benefit. They have money in their account, but they cannot even pay their bills. They don't even know how to pay their bills. So you can see how they've all been in that system, and because they cannot pay their bills, because they cannot even budget, because they cannot even, that is how it begins to affect them, and it starts to affect even their own children. So some of them even get threatened to be kicked out of the house by the landlord, not because they don't have the money, but because they don't even know how to start. And this is where Nelly was saying that it is important to find the courage to ask for help. Ask for help. Anything that you're struggling with, ask for help. Another thing that we want to talk about is the practical the practical challenges, which again, Nelly, I don't know whether you want to touch on. On my list, I talked about the challenges or the difficulties of co-parenting. Do you have anything to say about that? Why I drink some water?
Okay, yeah, there are so many practical things that you can do. So, when it comes to, okay, you've gone through all the relationship struggles and then the relationship has broken. How do you then manage with the practical aspects? Because, okay, let's say the children need to go to school,
Yeah.
which is a requirement here, but then you are out of the area that you were. If you don't have access to transportation or you can't fund the transportation to take the
Mhm.
children to school, because it is, regardless of where you go to, it is a requirement for children to be in school. And if the percentages or attendance starts dropping, the school sends you, the education officer starts sending you letter.
Yeah.
If the attendance drops significantly, you can get a penalty
Yeah.
and you can go to court. Parents have been in prison for not because of their children's attendance. So that's how severe it is. So the practical part is, if you know that you've moved, and because this initial move is mostly temporary, what you can do is indicate to the children's school that you have moved. If you are to make an application to a new school, it takes 21 working days. I think it's 21 working days for the school admission to process that. But it is still your requirement as a parent to be taking that child to school while the other school is sorting admission. So sometimes it's not practical, because if, say, you move like, say, 30 miles away, it's not practical that every morning and afternoon you do the school run. So that is a different case. But then you, as a parent, your parental responsibility is to indicate to the educational system that your child is out of school, and that's where you
Mm.
go through. If it's within the school year, you will do the in-year application. But if it's during the holiday, you can do the application through school admissions. But it's not just straight away like you come and just find yourself in a classroom. If again it is a matter where you can get a bus to take the children to school, you can do that. If it's a matter of asking a friend for help, but as a parent who has the children, do something, because if the children don't attend school, it will be on you. Another practical aspect, I know you talked about co parenting, the difficulty, because a, a lot of the times what I've realized is Parents, when they separate, they use their hate, their anger against the other parent, ignoring the impact on the children. So if it comes to a matter of, say, co-parenting, yes, you can agree to disagree. The relationship has broken. You have children together. As mature human beings, we would think that parents will put their differences aside and focus on the children. But unfortunately, the couple, one might, the other will not. So, as the parent who has the child, put up practical steps. This is where boundaries comes in. We've talked about boundaries some time ago. This is where boundaries come in. So if you need to be swapping, because in cases that I've seen, especially in the caseloads that I hold, the most dangerous times for parents who have separated is during handover for child contact, because that is the time when both parents are close to each other. So if you know being in the presence of the other partner will cause major problems, then make sure that you have someone to supervise handover. Let someone be there to supervise handover, or handover can be in the community, in a neutral place. It
Yeah.
could be that one parent drops the children up at school on the days that they've agreed, and the other parent picks up the children and drop them back in school, depending on, so that way the parents don't have any opportunity to meet. Sort out weekends. One parent can pick up the children from school on Friday and spend that weekend with them and drop them back in school on Monday morning, and then the other parent. But sometimes, even I've had cases where we've gone to court and court has put down a plan, but the plan, one of the parents does not still respect the plan.
Mm.
So if it's a matter that has gone to court, is for you, for both parents to be writing down, in short, everything,
Yeah.
because then you present whatever you've got to court. Because what parents do is they will say this other partner or this other person said this, did that, and sometimes they fabricate things that has happened with the children when actually nothing has happened. So either parent, you need to be very observant, because when you are taking down your statement, like one of the cases that I had, I was working with a child and this case was in court, and the mother was saying that the father was being abusive, and refused the father from seeing the child for a month, for a year, 12 months. So then it became really serious, where during contact, this child was only, he was only 6 years old. He would not want to see the father because of what the mother was telling the father. So when this court case was handed to me, I had to do some assessments because I was writing a report for court, and I had to speak to this child. So when I went to this child in school and I said, I just want to know about family members. And he put the family members, but did not put his dad. So I was like, oh, I'm just so curious. You've not talked about your dad. And he said, never ever talk about my dad. And I was like, okay. I had to include that in my report. So a few weeks after that, we went to court. Anyway, to cut it short. So the court decided that the father will have contact with this child at his home, because they were having this contact at the contact center, which, I mean, if anyone has been to the contact center, you know how it is. So the first day I said, I want to supervise this contact. So I picked up the children from school and went to the father's house. And I was so surprised because the child did not even behave as if for the past year he hasn't had this relationship with the father. It was just so different. So this is just an example of how or parents can feed children with false information.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That is so true. And at the end of the day, we're talking about we use our differences. This again, what we say, we use our differences to actually punish these children. We think we're playing cat and mouse games against each other, no, but we're punishing these children. So Nelly, that was great. You talk about the practical support. You talk about schools, because in fact, I will not even go into my own challenges so that when I was looking for schools for the kids, and then I bet you talked about the co-parenting. And I think another aspect, important practical aspect that we need to talk about, Nelly, is the financial support for that single parent. Because sometimes when they leave a relationship, maybe depending on the circumstances, maybe they were working, and now maybe they've ceased working, they cannot work because of childcare and all of that. Or maybe they had savings, you know if they had savings, they're going to of course start using that savings. How long how long can they depend on that savings? So this is the point where another thing that most victims that leave, they don't even know where to find help. They don't even know that they're entitled to certain support from the government or from the community. Some of them are very, very ashamed to even ask for help. You know, it's okay. I've seen it's okay. There was one time that I actually went, had to go for food packages. So again, it's embarrassing coming from a community where it's very embarrassing, especially if you're somebody that you were so dependent. You used to work, you used to buy whatever thing, and then you're reduced to a point where you have to beg for handout. It can be
yeah,
painful. It can be painful, and that can affect you, your personality, as well as even affect the children. For the children just to know that mom or dad is so broke that he or she needs to go ask for help, that really affects the children emotionally. It has a knock-off effect on the children, their confidence, their self-esteem. And that is the point where we as the parents, we really need to sit
yeah,
up and really look after these children, their emotional side of it. We need to reassure them. We need to keep talking to them. Let them know that, hey, this period is just temporary. It's not going to last forever. We need to keep reassuring them. And we need to keep telling them who we are, you know, where we are coming from, how we used to work hard, and that life is going to be okay, you know. So this is another practical thing. And like I was saying, the practical support. There are some people within the community, Nelly, that they're not entitled to public funds. For anybody who is in the UK, there are some people who have not got recourse to public funds. That means they cannot get benefits, and in that way, they cannot even get housing. So even though sometimes they will go through the social service, the children's social service, to accommodate children's social services may step in to help with accommodation. But I think there's some complexity in that. And Nelly, I'm sure you may understand that more for those who haven't got recourse to public fund. But I don't
yeah,
know, Nelly, do you want to say something on that?
yeah. So, any family who is on no recourse to public funds, they don't have access to any state benefits. However, if they are open to children's services, there is um, there is some support, but you need to really the social worker will dig to find out. There are some teams that offer support to families who have no recourse to public funds.
Mhm.
Yes. So if that is your case, then the social worker will know that and they'll look for where they can get the support for yourself, especially where the children are involved. They will do what they can to support the children.
Yeah. And yeah, that's so true, Nelly. And there are some charities as well. I know of one charity where I live in Stoke-on-Trent. They're very, very good. They Whispers of Hope. They specialize more with families, on families with no recourse to public funds. That is where they will help you. They will help you even navigate. There are some that, of course, they go through immigration and all of that, so they will help you, they'll support you as much
Yeah.
as they can, just to make sure that they get you to the level, to the point where you can financially sustain your family. So please, do not die in silence, do not suffer in silence. Always ask for help. If you don't step out and ask for help, and asking for help from the right people is important. Sometimes I always say, rather than go to the community, just like Nelly and I have said, and go ask for help, go ask for help from people that are going to turn back and start gossiping or laughing or humiliating you. It's rather you go to the right source. Either go to the job center, either go to children's social services, go to any government department, go to anywhere within the government department, go to charities. If there are charities, go to charities within your community and speak to them. You will get help, proper help from those organizations than even maybe from your own community. I mean,
Yes.
your own cultural community. Yeah. And
Yeah.
then,
I just want
yeah.
to add something. I just want to add something there before you continue. Yes. So
Mhm.
asking for help is very important. Ask for help when you are asking for help. I know you will be in a desperate situation when asking for help, but what I have experienced being a social worker is that when people go to ask for help, they become they see themselves as very, very desperate, so they are just waiting for anything. And
Yeah.
for me, the families that I work with, I said, listen, you need to educate yourself. Find out what your rights are. Don't just be a yes person.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they give you ask for this support, they give you a plan, and you know fully well that that plan does not work for you. But because it's a support that has been offered, you just say yes. When you ask for support, I'm not saying that you need to be selective, but you need to be proactive. Be proactive because you want your situation to change. Accept or indicate what your cultural needs are or what your specific needs are, so that whatever support is being given you will be tailored to meet your needs rather than giving a general support. Because if they give a general support that does not meet your specific needs, then that is resources that is being wasted that could have been used on some other family. So you need to be proactive. Don't just be so desperate. And all this desperation comes because people are so reluctant to educate themselves. Because, like on the internet, you have all sorts of government information and it's free. Just go on, if you are in the UK, go on the government website and you see whatever information you need there. As far as the government rules, policies, procedures, guidance, everything is concerned. So I would encourage anyone to take the time to read about anything that you want to find out about. Get it from the source, from the government website, rather than getting it through gossips because it won't help you. So yeah, this is just what I wanted to add before you continue. That
Yeah, that is so true, Nelly. It's so true. Honestly, there's a lot of information we can get anywhere. It's about being proactive and being informed. You know, another practical support that we would need to get. is the fact that, like I always say, Nelly, it's not the home or the house that you are in. I always say, sometimes you may be in a mansion. You've just come out from a mansion when everything was fine, everything was rosy, the children were all happy. And then you're put in a small place where you're looking at, where do I find myself here? In fact, in a refuge, maybe. I remember I was in a one bedroom with my three children, one room. We shared like beds, in the same room. And the thing is that it might also be a shock. And this is one of the things that you will look at and you feel so bad, you feel so sad, right? When you leave, you may not, it will take time for you to bounce back. It's about finding, just preparing it in your mindset that it's not going to last forever. No matter the circumstances, I'm going to bounce back. But every step that you take, be appreciative and show some gratitude. Gratitude not just for yourself, gratitude not just for maybe the universe, but gratitude for yourself. Be thankful, thankful even to your own self. Sorry, guys, I be thankful to your own self, you know, show gratitude even to your children. Be happy because that moment is a moment where are you are the energy giver of your children. If you get up in the morning and you're feeling so sad and down, that is the way your children are gonna be. But you need to make sure you get up in the morning every day. You just need to be confident and let them raise their hopes wherever they put you or wherever you find accommodation. One thing, please make sure you make it conducive and comfortable for your children.
Yeah, I think gratitude is very, very important because sometimes people have specific like housing situations that they want to be put in, but you cannot get it so easily. Wherever you find yourself, make it homey, make it
Yes.
comfortable, be contented, be happy where you find yourself because it is in the little things that we appreciate that more is being given unto us.
Mhm.
And just to go back to some points that you made earlier on, Peggy, breakup is not meant to be a life sentence. I realize in my journey of healing, I've done a lot of many different work. And one of the things is we blame situations for marital breakups, but we actually chose that path. And when we get to the point where our relationships are ending, it means it acts as a catalyst for us to change. And like Peggy said, maybe if that relationship continued, she wouldn't have been the independent person she is today. So instead of blaming the other person about a breakup, embrace it to say, that is your path that you are following, and everything happens for a reason and for the right time. But then, if you keep on blaming the other person, the blame means you are giving away that responsibility, that power. Is because you don't want to take that responsibility. And in blaming, you are giving away your power. When you find yourself is in uncomfortable situation, first of all, accept it. When you accept it, it's not that you are saying that it's good it happened. You are accepting it that you cannot change it. It has happened. Yes, you want to make a change. Take a pause and ask yourself, what do I need to do? Forget about revenge because revenge, you are wasting a lot of energy. Just let it go. And that is again where gratitude comes in. Regardless of the fact that you find yourself in a difficult situation, be thankful because whatever happens is for a reason. It might be an opening for you, but you have the choice. You can block it or you can open it and go through. We can say whatever we are saying here, Peggy and myself, but the decision is down to you. And we are not here in any way encouraging anyone to pack their bags and leave. No, we advocate and encourage marriages because it's a good thing to be in a relationship and to be in a relationship where you are valued, where you feel that you are yourself, rather than being in a relationship where you can't even breathe. Before you want to take a step, you look around that who are those seeing me. If you are one of those people, you find yourself in that kind of a situation, think and think again if that is a situation or that's a relationship for you, and think what got you into that relationship, what is the impact on your children, and is it down to some of your beliefs? Because sometimes parents hand down their struggles onto their children, and the lineage just continue to be to live in desperation. So yeah, I'll stop there. I'll stop there.
That is another topic on its own that we need to talk about. In fact, as you're talking, there are different topics that are just popping out in my head. I say, "Oh my God, we need to talk about it. We need to dive about it deeper." One thing, one practical thing, if this cover gonna allow me to speak, one practical thing that I also wanted when you were talking about is maybe during that time where yes, maybe the relationship has broken up. There's time where I always say it's a time of kind of rest where both parties are apart, at least that tension is off. And for some, but some people, if you think that maybe the relationship is worth mending, if you feel that the relationship is worth mending, and that if you mend that relationship, at least you can stabilize your family and also improve the impact on your children, then you can also consider mediation. You can consider mediation because there are times, don't even bother trying to go face to face that you want to talk to that person. No, because again, you are still very, very emotional and you still carry a lot of hurts maybe within you. So I always say the best thing is to find a mediator that can talk amongst you guys. Again, that is about when you guys have decided, or maybe both parties have decided to say, you know what, let us mediate. Then, yes, of course, go for mediation. So that's another practical step that you can take. But like I always say, when you come off that relationship, the guilt, be careful because the guilt can actually push you back into it and then make things worse. I always say, give your time, give yourself some time. Give yourself some time to reflect. As Nelly said, it's not the end of the war. It's not a death sentence. And you don't have to blame yourself. Trust me. Know that you would have done your best. Yes, maybe we're not perfect. I always say we are human, we're not perfect. There are times that maybe you miss out to do something that you should have done. Maybe you said something that you shouldn't have said. Maybe you thought something that you we are human. But again, you need to come to a realization that that is just being you as a human being. And don't put the sticker, don't blame yourself. And we need to assure our children again that it's not their fault.
Yeah, I
So I
think
don't know if yeah.
yeah, just one thing that I want to stress on about our
Mm,
children. So because our children carry a lot of guilt, a lot of blame for something
yeah,
that they didn't even do.
yeah.
As parents, when the relationship has broken, please calm yourself down and speak to these children. Though, unfortunately, parents will talk about their frustration on the children. That is not what I mean.
Mm,
Ask the children open questions. so the children can be able to express those hurtful feelings to you. Because if the children don't feel confident to express those hurtful feelings, they are going to go out. And
Yeah.
the big bad world is always there with open arms to receive our children. And
Yeah.
before you know it, the children start talking down on you. The child will go out of the house and they won't respect the time to get home, start pushing boundaries, sometimes not even respecting the boundaries. Soon they get into gangs and all whatnot. So create a nurturing, welcoming environment and speak to your children, or create that environment where the children will feel comfortable to speak to you. So that will prevent them from going and looking for comfort outside of the home, because the impact might be more dangerous there, but then it's connected to the breakup and you, the parent, not being able to accommodate that child. And then sometimes we tend to say they are problematic children when we created them.
Absolutely, absolutely. That is so true. Before we round up, I just want to give a shout out to Fanka Christabel Kimbong is watching. And if there's anybody that I cannot see on here, you're so welcome. And thank you so much for being part of the conversation.
Yeah,
Um,
we have. Let me just read a few. We have. You've talked of Franca. We have
yeah,
Barnett. We have Martha, who are watching. Thank you so much, and thanks for your comments.
great. Yeah, I haven't seen any comments, or maybe if there are any comments that require any question, Nelly, maybe you're seeing it at your end. So, yeah, so I think we're rounding up. So, again, we've talked about the emotional impact of breakup on children. We've talked about the guilt, and we've talked about it's very, very important at the onset to separate our feeling. If you're angry, do not mix up anger with resentment or with frustration. It's very important to learn, first of all, to separate your different emotions, put them in boxes, so that if you're angry, deal with the anger the way you should. If you're resentful, or you're fearful, or you're frustrated, deal with it appropriately. Because if we do not identify our emotions, we will not manage them properly, and it affects our children. Excuse me. We don't want to be lodging out on our children, expressing our frustration in front of them. No, that moment of breakup is a moment of building, and your children are depending on you. They're counting on you to start building peace, start making peace, and start making the environment calm and secure and safe for them, just like Nelly had mentioned. So yes, we talk about those different emotions. Of course, we've talked about guilt, and then of course we've talked about the practical aspect. Nelly have talked about you preparing, trying to find places for your children in school. We've talked about the financial bit. We've talked about the housing bit. Now, we would have talked about, in fact, the next topic that we're going to be focusing on building confidence after relationship breakup. Honestly, this is so super exciting, and I can't I'm really looking forward to it, because that is where, again, we need a lot of that courage to get up and build that confidence. That is where you talk about reset. You're resetting your life, you're resetting your mind, not just your mind, you're resetting everything about you. So, Nelly, I don't know whether you want to say anything again. We round up, if we at like 15 minutes above time.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you so much for watching today. And if there's anything around parenting, I know um, some people are watching and they are not single parents. Mind you, this is it's for educational purposes. It's not meant specifically for single parenting. Though there can be couple that live together, but when they feel that they are single, regardless, this is for parenting, because we focus on our children and the impact. Because whether you are in a relationship, whether you are separated, whether you are a single parent, sometimes disputes impact our children and it affects our parenting. So it's not only, we are not calling only for single parents to watch this, because other parents can also benefit from this. So if you have any topic that you want us to talk about, please send us a message and we will share that. Peggy, you are smiling. Is there something interesting?
You know why I'm laughing, Nelly? I looked, I looked, I looked at the banner. I think for some reason, it picked up the banner for the last session we had. I don't know for some reason. Oh, the banner I'm seeing is saying dealing with parenting burnout. That is the
Oh,
topic we discussed in 2 weeks, two
I
weeks
didn't even
ago.
realize it. Anyway, we'll finish now.
Yeah, we'll finish now. So again, Nelly, just before we go, one thing, like I said, if you are a parent, maybe both parties you see with your partner, okay, and you're parenting. Again, you've heard about what we've talked. You've heard about the struggles that we've been through, especially after that parenting breakout. What I always say is that today, wherever I go to speak, I always say, I wish I knew what I knew today. If I knew what I knew today, I don't think my relationship would have broken up. I think there would have been a point where there are certain actions or certain decisions or certain things or choices that I would have taken or made at certain point in life that would have prevented it. But hey, this is what I'm saying, that you may be watching this and you're still a couple. Please, you are very, very lucky. And I think it's your chance to make sure that your children do not go through some unnecessary trauma or some unnecessary stress because of the choices that you make as parents. Whatever choices you people are making, please know that at the end of the day, the children's safety comes first, right? The children's safety comes first. So thank you so much for watching. And sorry we've gone above time. But yes, there's a lot of things that we wanted to talk about. We're going to continue again in 2 weeks' time. We're going to be talking about how to build confidence after relationship breakup. So if you are watching after and you've got any question, please put it on there. Me and Nelly, we do watch our comment, we do read our comments. We're going to pick on them. And please, if you know that you want to become part of a panel, like to be on this panel show so that we can talk, please let us know. We can always add you on so that you can be part of the panel. Thank you so much for watching. And oh, finally, my voice did not mess up too badly. So hopefully in 2 weeks' time I'll be okay. I'll be fine. Thank you so much and have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.